I just said, you know what? Fuck it. Like, life is too short.
Hey friends, welcome to the Made to Move podcast. Today we have a guest, Angie Smith. She's really rad and has worked with some of the biggest companies in the world shooting photos like the New York Times or National Geographic. She's done a lot of really rad stuff. And our conversation today is really cool. We cover weird foods, weird travels, travel tips, and some of the coolest things she's ever done. So let's get into it.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Eugene, Oregon, and I lived there until I was 18, and then I went to college on the East Coast. I went to Bard College in the Mid-Hudson Valley, just north of New York City, and I studied there for 4 years, but I did take a break in the middle of it because September 11th happened my sophomore year, which
Wow.
really just like shook everybody's life up dramatically. And so I was in the middle of my sophomore year, or I guess in the beginning of my sophomore year, and just realized that I needed to take a break and focus on a few other things. I wasn't, I really wanted to study abroad, but I didn't quite have all the research done to figure out where I wanted to go and what I wanted to study. So I took a pause, but then ended up studying abroad in Ecuador. And then after that, returned back to Bard and finished my junior year and then my senior year. And then I moved to New York City, and I had a lifelong dream of working at a magazine. I was always obsessed with magazines growing up. We would drive up to Portland, Oregon, and go to Powell's Books, and I would sit in the coffee shop with a stack of magazines, just looking at all of the photographers who were published, looking at the bylines, looking at the photo editor names. And that was just a dream that I always had. That when I graduated from college, I just felt like even though I knew I wanted to be a photographer, I just wanted to fulfill that dream and see if I liked it. So I immediately started applying to magazines, to associate photo editor jobs. I started out with an internship at Complex Magazine, and I did a lot of photo research for them, kind of learned the ropes of how to find a needle in the haystack, of looking for an image that exists, that you know it exists and it's out there, but you just have to find it. Um, so I realized through a series of jobs at magazines that I just loved photo editing and I loved photo research and I loved to hire photographers for shoots. But I think after about 4 years of being in the position of, working in a cubicle in Midtown, hiring a photographer in Colorado to go shoot some incredible assignment, I think after doing that for so many years, I really realized I want to be on the other end of this arrangement. I want to be the photographer, um, getting to go on these adventures. And I really felt so strongly that that was my calling. And being just, since I hadn't fulfilled it yet, I just felt like I was doing myself a disservice by not pursuing that. And I also realized that I'm a true West Coast girl at heart. Um, I love living in New York. I love living on the East Coast, but I'm just I love the mountains. I love nature. I love adventure. And I just felt constrained being in the city. So I moved. I actually spent like 6 months on a road trip driving from Seattle down to San Diego. And I really had no idea where I was going to end up. I thought it would be either San Francisco or Portland. Um, but then I came and visited a friend in Los Angeles from high school, and she invited me to stay with her for the month because she had a vacant room. And I stayed with her, and we traveled all over Southern California. And she kind of showed me her side of Los Angeles, like her
Hmm.
experience of Los Angeles, which was, I realized Los Angeles is a city where like you have to know someone to kind of take you to the inside of the city. If you just go to all the touristy places, the Walk of Fame, it's really boring and superficial. But once you really get into the culture, and that's when it just sucked me in and I fell in love with it. So then I ended up in Los Angeles for 15 years. And just before the pandemic, I was really feeling kind of at the end of the chapter there. I was feeling like I wanted more. I wanted more community. Um, and I have a wonderful relationship with Boise, Idaho, because my family on my dad's side is all from Boise. So I spent my whole life spending every summer in McCall and lots of time in Boise. And I also started a project there called Stronger Shines the Light Inside, which is about the refugee community in Boise. And it's a project that really helps tell the stories, the life stories of many of the refugees that ended up in Idaho. And through that project, I created these outdoor exhibitions that people would encounter when they really weren't trying to encounter it. I put them in public spaces, and they were very large installations. So people walking to work or, just with no intention to really run into this art would see these photographs and read these interviews. And so that really deepened my relationship with Boise, and I decided I wanted to live there and live in a space where I felt I had a very deep connection with the community and I was actually making a difference in people's lives through my work. So I moved to Boise in the summer of 2019, and I was just getting settled there when the pandemic hit. And then I was there for about 3 years. And I was really grateful that I had moved and I was in that environment for the pandemic versus in Los Angeles because I was really surrounded by family and friends and nature. And
Yeah.
it was a wonderful 3 years. Um, so I've worked in so many different positions related to photography, apart from being a photographer, just because many of the years in LA, I had to always have a part-time job to support my photography practice. So I've worked for many different photographers. I've worked with ad agencies, I've worked with magazines. So it's now I'm at a point in my life where I really feel like when I look back and take opportunities like this to sit down and talk about my life and my experience, I really realize for the first time, like, wow, I've really accomplished a lot and I've experienced a lot. And it feels good to kind of come to a place in your life where you can appreciate that
Totally.
and yeah.
So cool. Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So you spent 3 years in Boise, but then Mexico City comes on the scene. How did that happen?
Yes.
And kind of where
So
you are now.
yeah, so I guess at the time we were about 2.5 years into the pandemic, maybe 2 years into the pandemic. And I had made a really good friend that in the last few months who had recently moved to Mexico City. And she was ranting and raving about how much she loved it, about what an amazing environment it is for artists and creatives, and how much she thought I would love it. So I actually already had a trip booked to Mexico, but in the south. But I only had a one-way ticket booked because that's the way I like to travel these days, like one way at a time for
which
Mm-hmm.
maximum
is rad.
flexibility. So
Yeah.
I had a one-way ticket booked to Cancun, but then I was going down to the border of Belize. So I decided to return to Boise by flying up to Mexico City and then flying back to Boise. So I came to visit her for about 5 days. And on my last day, we were spending the whole day shooting together photographs around the city. And we took a break for lunch. And she said, "Where do you want to eat?" And at that point, I'd been eating tacos for 5 days straight, and I really wanted a different flavor profile. And she's Israeli American. And so I said, "Are there any like Mediterranean places, Middle Eastern places that you recommend?" And she said, "My good friend owns an amazing spot. Let's go. So she brought me to this place called Bar Pita. And it turns out the owner of Bar Pita, who hosted us for lunch for 3 hours, is now my fiance.
All right.
We love it.
That's fun.
Yeah, so
So cool.
yeah, so we really, then we were in a long distance relationship for about 6 months, and then at about 6 month mark, 6 to 7 months, I just said, you know what? Fuck it. Like, life is too short. I'm living in Boise, Idaho. Boise, Idaho is wonderful. I love it deeply, but at the same time, I'm not ready to live this chill, slow lifestyle. I feel like there's more in my life that I need to accomplish, and um, I think I need more stimulation, and just, I think, why not? I'd been really wanting to find my life partner, and so I just, in 2 months, I had 4 garage sales. I sold a bunch of photo equipment that I never used on eBay, and I had apartment sales, and I sold like 80% of my everything, stuff I'd been collecting for way too long anyway.
Which
And I
So
feels
brought my
so
cool.
good.
cat. Yeah, and then I brought my cat. And actually, yesterday was my 1 year anniversary of living here.
Oh, so
Cool.
cool. Wow,
Yeah,
so
so the
timely.
timing of this is perfect.
So
Yeah.
has Mexico City fulfilled that for you? Like just a lot busier and crazier now?
Yes, I mean, the thing is, like, at heart, I am a nature lover, and I'm a very chill person. And if I had to choose between am I a city girl or a nature girl, it would absolutely be nature.
Mm.
And so I think it it's been really fun living here and exciting, and I think it's important for my personal evolution and my career evolution and my artistic evolution. But that being said, it's still really hard sometimes. Just in living in a smaller place that has very easy access to nature, I think it's really hard to not have that. But that being said, there are some amazing places just outside of the city here that you can access, and the nature is wild and beautiful and pristine. So I'm learning those places, but it's just a different relationship to it. You get there differently. Um, your relationship to it is very different. So I would say one thing I didn't expect about this move is that I didn't expect the transition to take, like, I now that I'm a year in, I really think the transition is going to take 2, maybe even 3 years.
Mm.
To get
So I
used
don't,
to it, you mean?
yeah, just to adjust to everything. It's like the big things, it's the little things, it's your entire life structure, it's your bank accounts, it's how you pay for things, it's how you plan for the future, health insurance, like everything about your life is different. New relationships, new friendships, new routines. So I think I'm in the midst of that transition. I'm in kind of the beginning of it, or probably like I might look back and say I'm in the beginning of it. But I mean, overall, it's been really wonderful. And I know in the grand scheme of my life and my growth as a artist and a person, it's necessary. It's absolutely necessary.
Totally. That
Hmm.
kind of made me think about like, so I lived in Abu Dhabi for a year, and one of the things that shocked me the most about leaving the US was like the bureaucratic systems like outside of the US. So like getting your driver's license or your ID or, becoming a resident or whatever it is.
Hmm.
Like you said, bank accounts, like how you pay for stuff. All of that is like it is so strikingly different than how the US
Hmm.
does it. And in a way, you kind of like gain respect for the US because you're like, oh, it was actually easier there. But like certain
Hmm.
things here are much better. Have
Yeah.
you noticed that since moving to Mexico City, like having to set up all that kind of stuff? Or is it like, are you able to still kind of
Oh,
operate off of like the
oh
US side?
no. Fuck.
Oh, she's a little frozen.
Yeah. Dang it.
Oh,
Oh, you're
hi.
back.
Hi, hi. Oh my God. The power just went out. I'm so
Oh.
Oh, crazy.
confused.
Oh no.
Literally, somehow we are. Okay, I'm getting my cellular. I still have my cellular service, but the power went out. So
Oh,
Crazy.
classic, just as you're asking that question.
literally.
Things that you get
Yep.
used to. I'm trying to find a
Yep.
space that has good light. You
Yeah.
probably want me to be in the same environment that I was.
No,
What
it's
do you
fine.
think? I can change it?
Oh,
Okay,
whatever
maybe
you
I'll
want.
come out to
Yeah,
my
literally either
balcony.
way.
Okay.
Oh, there did the
That's
lights
so
come
funny
back
though.
on?
Oh, yes, they did. Okay.
The
All right.
lights come on
That's
right as
so
you step
funny.
outside.
Oh my gosh.
Iconic.
Wow. That's so funny. That never
And then
happens.
probably Wi-Fi is
Well, I mean,
reconnecting,
once
so
every couple months. Okay.
she's back.
Can you hear me? See me?
Yeah.
Everything good?
Can't see you yet, but I can hear
Um,
you.
Oh, I can see her.
no?
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Okay,
But
she
it's
can see you,
it
so
is recording her no matter what. Like,
true.
so.
Yeah, and that also is a
Okay.
good note. It's the software we use is recording on your computer, and then will upload for us from there. So
Or your
even if
phone.
it cuts out like this or whatever, or your phone, whatever you're using, it will.
Okay.
Yeah, well, it should be fine.
Okay.
Should be able to see you.
Perfect. Yeah, so I think in terms of the systems that, yeah, I would say banking is a big thing because my partner's banks are all Mexican banks and mine are US banks. So, um, trying to plan our finances and find a way to create like the system that we want to use moving forward or investments, or we're planning for our wedding now and we wanted to sign up for one of those websites where people can contribute to your honeymoon, or people can like purchase investments on your behalf or something. So
Yeah.
even that, like, who the money has to go to either my account or his account, and they're both so it's just finding a way to
Mm,
merge our systems is challenging.
Totally. My husband and I had to do
Yeah.
that too because his bank account was like in the UAE and then mine was here. We just were like sent it to me because US accounts are so much easier for like Venmo and stuff. Like most
Yeah.
other countries don't have a Venmo or a Cash App or like stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it can be difficult then
Yeah.
when you transfer it. So,
But since this is a travel podcast, I will say that there's a very great tool that travelers can use. It's called Wise. And it's just a system that makes it so easy, depending on where you are in the world, to send money to different
oh, that's cool.
mm,
currencies. And so Wise has actually been kind of the middle point that I've used in so many situations.
mm.
So
How do
cool.
you spell that?
Just WISE.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
cool. And it's
Yeah.
similar. Is it similar to like a Venmo or something, but just can connect to international banks, or what? What would
Yeah,
you compare it to?
I'd say it's similar to Venmo, but it's just a little bit more complicated because if you want to send money to someone, you need to enter first. You need to create a profile for them with their phone, their
Okay.
name, email, their bank routing number, and their home address. So you just have to like go through, it's kind of like making a wire transfer, but a lot
Yeah.
easier. And they do
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
all the conversions from the currencies, so just makes it really simple.
That's awesome.
rad.
Dang.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh,
oh,
well.
What was that?
Oh, there we go.
sound effect time.
Oh my
So
God.
that's the sound effect I play when it's time for our travel trivia section. I figured I'd do it
Oh.
early on in the podcast. I'm not sure. I
Okay.
can't decide whether these are easy or hard questions, so you'll have to see. They're
Oh
kind of
no,
right in the
I'm
middle.
nervous. My palms are
So
sweating.
prep yourself. We will judge you hard if you don't get these. So,
Okay. Oh
I
no.
typically never
There's
know them, so
plural?
and then
Plural?
There's a
there are
few.
5 questions, and
Okay.
we will do the answers at the end of the podcast.
Okay. Okay.
So we'll start right off the bat.
Okay.
And if you want to write these down, do you have a piece of paper or something? I should have warned you. Are you using your phone to film this?
Yes.
Okay, so you do a piece of paper. That works great.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I gotta write them down too.
Yeah, you gotta write them down too, Kate.
I always do them too, and usually I get them wrong, Angie. So no pressure. Just so you know.
Okay. Okay.
Alrighty, question number 1. What is escargot?
Oh, it's of course snails.
Oh yeah, it is. You gotta write it down though. You don't say it right now.
Okay.
We won't give the answer.
Okay.
That one was easy. It was a nice warm up.
Okay.
All right, question number 2. What is the highest mountain in Africa?
Kilimanjaro.
Kilimanjaro.
Okay.
Potentially. We'll do it again.
Well, yeah, we'll find out at the end.
Okay.
All right, you're killing it so far though. I will say that.
Okay. Okay.
Those were easy, Lance. Those were really easy.
I know those 2 were easy. This is the thing. When I'm getting all the questions, I'm like, I don't want to go too gnarly off the bat. So the first one or two, I like to have like a little bit easier.
Confidence build.
Like build, exactly.
And then, but we'll see. The next couple are a little different. Anyway.
Okay.
What is the most spoken language in the world?
Spanish.
So write it down. We'll cover it at the very end. But yeah, what is the most spoken language on Earth?
I would say Spanish.
That's what
Write
I'm
it down.
thinking,
I'll let
too.
you know.
Okay.
Alrighty. 4th question. What is the most visited country on Earth?
Oh wow.
Most visited country on Earth.
Oh, I have a thought.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like the most, like someone's like, I want to travel, and then this is of course the first place they think of because like
I want to say
movies
Paris.
and stuff. That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
Write it down. We'll cover
like-
it at the
But
end.
we're talking about
The country, but I feel like
Yeah,
people
the
do go to
country.
Paris. It's like someone
it's
leaves the
everyone's
country and they're like,
dream.
I know.
But I would also want to say, well, I was going to say Mexico, but I think that's mostly true for North Americans rather than Europe. And
Totally. All right, write down your answer. Final answer.
okay,
And then
okay.
we have a 5th question, which is, what is the most widely eaten food in the world? And you
Can you give us like if it's a protein or like a carb or
Is it like a full meal, like a plate or an item?
It's an ingredient, not a meal.
Okay, I got it.
But it can be a meal.
I would say rice.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Write it down. We'll see.
Okay.
So that's it though. That's the whole. See, it wasn't so scary.
Okay,
You got
that
most
wasn't
of
so
them, probably.
bad. That wasn't so bad. Okay.
You survived.
Yeah, and then we'll go over the answers at the very end, which is fun. So.
Okay. Quick question. I'm noticing that my phone battery is rapidly decreasing. Do you mind if I just grab my charger?
Go
really
for
quick?
it.
Yep,
Be right
totally
back.
fine.
See
how those questions were kind of hard? Like some of them were on the edge.
Yeah, they weren't that bad. I have this like ridiculous fear. Well, it's not really a fear, but it's like an anxiety around playing games, and it's all centered around like appearing stupid in front of other people. But then what's funny is that when I actually, like 9 times out of 10, when I start playing the game, I always win the game.
Oh, so you're one of those types.
And I feel so much better about myself.
Totally.
And I realize that it's a ridiculous fear.
No, it's not. I think it's super common, actually. My wife has the same thing. She was homeschooled. And so she has like this weird fear that she doesn't know as much as other people. But she's the same. When she actually plays, she kills it, like, and she has fun. But I think it's a lot more common than.
I think it's because you're giving off the energy of like, I don't really care what happens. And then like same. Andre is always trying to like do the best in games, and I'm like, I don't even like this. And then I win. I win every time.
And he's so pissed.
And he's like, you didn't even want to be doing this. And I'm like, I know. I think that's why I won.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So you just gotta, I don't know, be chill.
Yeah, it sounds like I need to chill out because I lose at everything.
Uh,
Hey, so currently Angie lives in Mexico City, and there are pros and cons about Mexico City. One of the cons is that sometimes the power goes out, and sometimes the Wi-Fi doesn't work, and sometimes cellular isn't the best. So because of that, we couldn't get the podcast to work that day. So we opted to just give up and start the next day. So the next morning we jumped back into it, which is why our clothes changed and stuff. And anyway, the rest of the conversation is really fun. We get the answers to the trivia, and it's a good time. So anyway, let's jump into that.
I say we hop in because Angie, we got to hear about the craziest food you've eaten.
Oh, okay.
You know, we
Yeah,
just hop
I
in
hear
with
you've
like
eaten some
that
crazy
moment.
animals.
Pets,
Well,
pets.
Pets. I
yes,
hear you've
so,
eaten some pets.
so I don't know if either of you have heard of cuy, which is an Ecuadorian
Mm-mm.
delicacy, which I ate quite a bit of when I was studying abroad there, which is basically, I think it's cooked in many different ways, but I particularly had a slow roasted guinea pig, which they call cuy.
It's the slow roasted for me.
Rough. Here's the honest truth,
Yes.
though. The reality
So,
Is there
is,
lag?
I'd almost rather have it for dinner than a pet. We had a pet guinea pig for a little while.
So true.
That thing sucked.
they don't
Yep.
have a good reputation as pets.
Yeah,
They
I don't
So
don't.
get why.
maybe
There's
the Ecuadorians were onto something.
Serious. Really, what happened
100%.
was they had it as a pet, and they're like, "This thing's stupid. Let's eat it. This
Exactly.
thing's
That's
dumb. I'm
probably
also
how it
hungry."
started. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
Unreal.
I would
Wild.
definitely say cuy.
Did
Mm-hmm.
it taste like chicken? Like how every kind of animal
Yeah,
does?
yeah, it didn't have any particular taste. Like, when you eat goat, it's very distinctly
Yeah.
goat, or when you eat
Mm,
rabbit, you can, but yeah, it has kind of a very like familiar taste. It was just more the
mm.
shape. Like they always serve it to you where it's like on a spit, and the legs are still,
Wait, it's the
it's
whole
in
guinea pig.
action. Yes, the entire guinea pig, and you just kind of tear the little
Yes.
legs off, and yeah, it
Whoa.
comes like as an entire entity.
Which is
Yeah.
hilarious
Oh,
because guinea pigs are like the shape of a large potato. Like
oh,
they
for
are
sure.
just like
Yeah, I know, with their little legs. So it's
that is
Oh,
funny.
definitely, it's hard to eat. It's hard to eat because you're just looking at it and it looks exactly the way it looks as a pet, just stiff and
just
cooked.
cooked.
Unreal.
When I
Yeah.
Okay,
was on a work
so guinea pig is
trip, and
definitely the craziest. Oh, sorry.
no, it's fine. I was on a work trip in China once, and so the manufacturer like takes you to a fancy dinner or whatever, and it's all family style. There, super popular, and so they're bringing out all these dishes. All of a sudden, they brought out a full turtle, but it was just smashed. So you like grabbed a
Oh
piece of
my
turtle shell and would
No.
just eat
God.
piece of turtle off the turtle shell.
Oh,
Gnarly.
wow.
I gotta go.
Yeah.
I'll see you guys later.
I
Just kidding.
know. Oh,
Yeah,
That's
way
insane.
sadder than guinea pig.
Yeah, why would they do that?
definitely. Like
Yeah, and
so
I have
many
so many questions.
parts that go
I'm
to
like,
waste.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, did they smash it
That's true. I
first?
mean,
I hope not. I hope they cooked it first and then smashed it.
Yeah, I would think cook first, then
Yeah.
smash. Otherwise, it would be very messy.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
Yikes.
Yes,
That's true.
Okay,
That's a
so
good
that's
that's
point.
definitely the grossest or craziest food, but what's your favorite food?
oh my God. By far, my favorite food is just Japanese, like ramen. It's kind of a tie between ramen
Mm,
and just raw nigiri, just fresh,
Yes,
fresh
so good.
Japanese food. In fact, one of my dream photography travel trips is to go to Japan and do an onsen and ramen story. And
100%.
the
Mm.
two might be in completely different parts of the country, but I'm hoping there's some where both of them are in the same region and you could make a story out of the two.
Can we go do that right
100.
now, actually?
I was just about to say, I was like, can we
Yes.
come? Like,
Yes.
Let's
Yes.
buy
It
tickets
should
right now and
absolutely
go.
be a gravel story. I will help. I will
Oh,
support the
let's do it.
mission.
That
actually,
sounds
um,
incredible.
Angie, have you heard about Zip Air, the airline?
No, no.
LAX to Tokyo round trip, $400.
What?
Yeah, look it up.
So
Write it
sick.
down. If
Wow.
you go
Okay,
on
I
Google
am.
Flights, if you go on Google Flights and you just do LAX to Tokyo, it will pop up. It's the first
Oh
one that pops up, and then you get sent to their
my God.
website. It's honestly, I
Wow.
want to fly their airline because it's a Japanese budget airline, but the Japanese literally do everything like so beautifully. So it's like
Ah,
an incredibly
Mm.
nice budget airline.
wow, that
Mm.
is such a hot tip.
I
Since
know.
this
Zip.
is a
I know. I should
travel
Actually,
go book tickets right
podcast,
now.
I know. So since this is a travel podcast and you all are a travel brand, I would also tell you that there is, so Volatus, the airline,
yeah.
um, they have a product called the Volatus Annual Pass. So for $499, you purchase the annual pass, and then you can fly anywhere that Volatus flies direct for just the price of taxes.
Wow.
What?
So that's
Yes.
do they fly only within Mexico or are they like South America as well?
No, you can also fly from, I believe, LAX to Costa Rica. They fly to Nicaragua. They fly
So
to
cool.
Peru, I believe. So
What?
there are a few places in South America that you can fly. They have a lot of trips, a lot of flights direct from Mexico City. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think maybe all the actually, now that I think about it, I think all the LAX flights go direct into Mexico. They may not actually
Mm.
go to Central America or
And
South
then you
America,
go
but
from there, yeah, too.
yeah, but I
So
bought
cool.
one and I flew to LA within 2 days because everything you book is very last minute. You can't plan
Mm-hmm.
really far in advance. So I flew to
Mm.
LA literally 2 days before I flew. The flight there was $100 in taxes, and then my flight back to Mexico City was $30.
What?
So cool.
So yeah,
Valeris
good
is
travel
awesome.
hack. It
Yeah,
is.
we found, I remember when Andre and I went on our honeymoon, we went to Puerto Escondido and then Mexico City, and our flights were
Mm-hmm.
like $27 to,
Yeah.
I
Crazy.
think it was $27 to Mexico City or something like that. And then from
Mm-hmm.
there we just went to Puerto. But yeah, that's a cool airline. Like they really hook you up with
Yeah.
the discounts.
Yeah, they definitely do. So second work
Dude,
trip for
thanks for
you
that pro
guys.
tip.
Come to
Yeah,
Mexico.
seriously.
Yeah,
Yes.
so good. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
we love it. Do you want to share? I really want to hear about Taco Mensch and
Ah.
like, that whole side of things in Mexico City. So maybe if you want to just share about your food tour company, Lance doesn't know about it, but like if you want to share kind of,
Ah.
with everyone.
Yes, yes. So, as I was telling you earlier, I've been a photographer for about 20 years and I love it and I will always be a photographer. But part of what is really exciting about this transition to living in Mexico City and joining my life with my partners is that we're working on projects together. And he has an existing taco, basically a food experience company in Mexico City. He has a very, very popular taco tour that takes place in Roma Norte and Condesa, where you go to four different taquerias, you go to a local market, um, and you end at this amazing chocolate, this award-winning chocolatier, their
Mm.
shop in Condesa. And we are collaborating on this and expanding it and adding additional food tours. And we're also going to be doing art tours as well because Mexico City has a festival called Zona Maco, which is a huge art festival in February. So we're going to be doing a kind of a mix of a taco tour with visiting artists in their workshops and learning about how their process and their work. And then in between each artist workshop, we'll go to a taqueria.
So cool. Okay,
Right.
another thing
Yes.
I'm coming for.
Serious. Add me
Yes,
to that list as well,
exactly.
please.
So cool.
Yes. Yes.
Dang. That's amazing. So
Mm-hmm.
rad. Dang.
Yeah, so
And then
I'm working on that tour company as kind of the creative director and also one of the tour curators as we develop new food experiences.
so
Cool.
cool. Wow. I can't wait to
So
go to one. Sounds incredible.
Yes.
how do you decide what's on the tour and what's not on the tour?
Um, I think there's a lot of different elements to it. I mean, Avi's lived here for over 6 years now, and he was born in Mexico City. So through his years of living here as an adult, he's really gone to so many different places, and we really try to, if you do a basic Google search on where to eat in Mexico City, a lot of the same places are going to come up over and over again. So
Hmm.
every day we see tourists walking around our neighborhood and they're always going to the same places. And those places are amazing, but they're very touristy, and there's also just so many places that people don't really know about or aren't found on the top 10 lists. And we really want to bring people to these hidden gems that are just as good, where you can have a really intimate, awesome experience, maybe meeting the owner, maybe having them cook for you in front of you and join your table and talk a little bit about their menu and their experience. So we're just trying to create very intimate, unique experiences where people can really have a
Hmm.
much deeper experience. And also
Cool.
just shed light on other incredible business owners and people that have owned a business for 50, 60 years,
So
that
rad.
also, you know, worthy of attention. Yeah.
Mm.
Totally. That's so sick.
And then do you just have
Hmm.
a
Okay,
bus?
I'm
Like
booking
you
my
all just
flight. I'm
jump into a
buying the
bus?
Valeris thingy.
So the most popular tour that he has is actually a walking tour. So
Oh,
everything is
cool.
within Roma Norte and Condesa, and you probably walk, probably all in all, you probably walk around 1.5 miles.
Oh, so mellow.
So just from all the spots are just 5 minutes from each other, and you get to try such a different range of tacos and ingredients.
Oh, yeah, serious. I'm ready to come. Yeah, let's book flights.
Sounds
Let's head
so
down.
good.
Yes,
We'll do
yes,
part 2 of the podcast in person on the tour.
Definitely.
exactly. I
A
know,
Done.
because
walking.
he always has a bag that he carries with him where, because he brings waters for the guests. So I'm already thinking
Mm,
about the product placement that we can do in the videos.
Totally.
done.
So fun.
Easy.
Yes, yes,
So cool. Oh my gosh.
yes.
One thing I was thinking about, and I think obviously, like I've been to Mexico, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. Every single time I have an incredible experience. But I think, the US has this mindset because of the media and how they portray Mexico. Like, what is something you'd want to share with people who have never been? Obviously, you're living there, to like almost like a new mindset that they could walk in with if they come to visit.
I would just say the richness and the depth of culture here is so incredible and so vast. And when you think about the US and how vastly different the culture is from, like, if you go to New Orleans versus New York City, I mean, we have such a vast difference in culture and experience that you can have in the US. So it's the exact same thing with Mexico, if not even more extreme, because every state in Mexico has its own unique culture and cuisine and, uh, of course, history. And just, you could visit one location in Mexico, spend 2 weeks there. You could go to Guadalajara, spend 2 weeks in Guadalajara, feel like you've had the most rich and incredible experience, and then fly down to Quintana Roo and go to Merida and see a vastly different culture. So I just think that it's just full of so much richness and beauty. And I mean, you can't go wrong whether you come to Mexico City or whether you start out in Merida or visit Bacalar, which is one of my favorite places in Mexico. It's a lake, it's a freshwater lake that is the color of the Caribbean Sea.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
it's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been in Mexico.
So cool.
Yeah.
It's so
Rad.
amazing. Such an amazing
Yeah.
country.
We did.
Yeah.
Well, Katelyn did a little short on YouTube about Mexico and about like a little resort that she went and stayed at, and all the comments were like, "Oh, if you want to get taken by the cartel and whatever else," like just so much
So
like
many
literally like
negative.
5 or 10
Yeah.
negative comments like that on this video. And so I really I'm going to make a video on is Mexico dangerous to travel to? And when I do that, I'll have it more organized. But I
Yeah.
would love to interview you specifically for that when we go to do that. Because
Sure.
I've never been to
Absolutely.
Mexico. It's weird because that's like everybody's first spot in the U.S. is like going to Mexico.
Come.
But I know, that's what I'm saying. I want to come do that
Oh
taco
my
tour
gosh, that
so
video that you're
bad.
talking about, you should. That video that you're talking about, I could see a really interesting, if you wanted to expand it, you could I love that topic, and then you could pair it with like these questions and then footage of like being in the most beautiful situations with the kindest people, just kind of showing
Totally.
this contrast of like the preconceptions that many Americans have and the questions. Like, I mean, that's probably the number one question that everybody has about coming to Mexico that has never been to Mexico before. And then
Totally.
just pairing it with footage of these like beautiful experiences with people that are kind and inviting
Yeah.
and welcoming.
Yeah, we
So
really
good.
should
And
just
the best
plan
food
Yeah.
ever.
we should plan a taco tour for that video specifically. I really want, not to get too in depth on that video, but I just imagine like the opening sequence where I'm like, is Mexico dangerous to travel to? And then it clips to a bunch of like news stories about how gnarly it is or whatever. And then the very next clip is like us just like chilling, eating at a taco shop, and like the food's just so good. Like
Yes.
that contrast, I like the
Strolling
idea of it a
through,
lot.
yeah, exactly. Like strolling through Parque Mexico, which is the most famous park. Or there's also the Parque Chapultepec, which is huge and has a lot of very like native trees. Like none of these trees were ever cleared in all of the development of Mexico City. And then a lot of the dog
That's
walkers, you
cool.
walk around Roma, and there's people walking like 12, 13 dogs at a time through Parque
So cool.
Mexico. There's like men selling balloons, literally holding 50 balloons. Like there's just so many beautiful scenes that you could capture that communicate like color, richness, kindness, and then you contrasting it with those headlines or those questions. It's just
Yeah.
it's so funny. I think it would bring the point across.
Totally. I agree. I think it'd be
Yeah.
such a good video. So
So good.
I think that mix of the taco tour, we got to do it.
Yes.
Okay, I'll plan it legit.
Yes.
I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yay.
You just
We'll be
named the
waiting.
time, Lance. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the main thing, I have four kids, and my youngest is 6 months old. And so we're still at a place where it's like I can't really leave my wife with 4 kids and a 6-month-old at the moment.
Yes.
Without some kind of plan in place, So
Right.
so I'm trying to think of like thinking about trips where we're headed to her parents' house or something, and then I'll just ditch everybody and head to Mexico for a little bit, something like that.
Yeah,
But I'll
actually, so
figure it
you
out.
can fly from Salt Lake. You can fly direct from Salt Lake to Mexico City. It's like 4 hours.
Oh, rad,
Very
easy.
easy.
Yeah.
I'll do it the same
saw-
day. I'll fly down,
Yeah.
and then I'll just come back that night. Perfect.
You could
Easy.
literally
That's
come
an
for a
easy sell.
weekend. Exactly.
Yeah.
So cool. So fun.
Yes.
Oh, so good. I feel like I want to hear some stories about, obviously, photography and travel for you have like kind of gone hand in hand. And I'm curious if you have like any
Hmm.
stories from kind of your photographic like adventures that come to mind, that are just that stood out to you, either like through impact or it was a crazy experience or something like that.
Mm. Yeah, well, yes. So as a photographer that works editorial for magazines, a lot of my travel for those jobs have been within the US. So have had a lot of really impactful stories where I've traveled within the US for longer periods. Like oftentimes when I shoot for the New York Times Magazine, they send you somewhere. They think it could be as little as 5 days, but sometimes it's as long as 2 weeks. So last year
Hmm.
I went to Wisconsin right before the midterm elections. And I
Okay.
was in Madison for 2 weeks photographing politicians and races and kind of capturing like overall the certain particular races that would could potentially tip the entire midterm elections of the country. But
Hmm.
travels like that where you really get embedded into a place and a scene for a particular amount of time. But then also my international travels with photography have mostly been teaching oriented because for
Okay.
5 years I taught for National Geographic and Putney Student Travel. So we would bring groups of 25 to 35 teenagers to
So
different
fun.
countries all over the world and teach them photography. And basically an intensive
Wow.
photography workshop in various countries throughout the world. So I taught for 5 consecutive years for National Geographic and taught students in Ecuador, Spain, Italy, Paris, and London, and
So cool.
Italy.
Crazy.
Yeah, so that was a very interesting job because you were not only a photography teacher, but you were also a chaperone and a
Mm.
counselor and making sure the kids basically stayed alive, didn't get lost in the
Totally.
middle of Paris or Barcelona. But those years were really amazing because it was such a blend of different experiences. It was intense travel because oftentimes I would go to the country early to do a lot of scouting for the trip
Hmm.
and like pre-production. So yeah, I would say Ecuador. I spent 2.5 weeks in Ecuador with 30 teenagers, and we
Dang.
traveled all over the country. We went to the Galapagos. We did so many epic, incredible activities and got
Mm.
to photograph the whole thing.
So rad.
So yeah,
Wow.
those trips were some of my favorites.
Mm.
So cool. I feel like I wish I could go back in time and go on one of those trips when I was a teenager. That's so
Exa
sick.
yes, yes. In fact, one of my I now I have a business where I mentor and coach and counsel photographers, and one of my clients is actually a student that I had on my Paris workshop like
Mm.
So
13
cool. Full
years
circle.
ago. Yes.
That's so rad.
Wow.
Hmm.
So dope. Dang.
So, we all have these stories where at the time it just seems like the worst thing ever, but then afterwards you look back and you're
Hmm.
like, what a memory, like what a wild time. Does anything stand out to you when I say that?
Mm. Let's see, worst. Oh my God. I'm trying to think of a story that's like internationally based and
Mm.
not. Well, okay. Um, Let me think here.
It can also be in the US or wherever. It doesn't I mean, whatever you
Yeah.
want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I was the like the first story that comes to my mind is that when I went on this assignment for the New York Times Magazine to Wisconsin, I arrived into the airport in Madison and went to the rental car company to pick up my car. and started looking for my driver's license. Couldn't find it anywhere, realized it had fallen out of my jacket as I was getting on the
Oh,
plane and getting settled. And so I'm there in Madison on the first day of a 2 week shoot where a car is absolutely essential to make the entire thing work.
Oh
And
gosh.
no.
I had no way of picking up the car. I didn't know anybody in Madison. But within 10 minutes, one of my best friends connected me with a friend of his that lived in Madison. He was on his way to pick me up at the airport, took me where I needed to go, and then within 5 more hours, one of the volunteers on one of the political campaigns that I was shooting offered me the use of her car for the next 2 weeks. And
What?
basically, like, people just came together to help me, and I like within a few hours I had everything I needed to survive that shoot. And it was
So
really a,
rad.
a bonding, because I really saw immediately upon arrival how kind people were there and realized like, what I needed and made it happen. So I think it just things
So
So
rad.
things
cool.
like that you have no control over just create this opportunity for so many unexpected, like unexpected gestures of kindness from people.
So
That is
cool.
the best.
Yes.
That is like, I feel like when I look back at my travels, that's what I remember the most is like when people, like random strangers. It's like my mom's worst nightmare, but for me, I'm like, it was my favorite moment of the trip, like where a stranger offers you a
Mm,
ride or like, and obviously you can vibe out if it's a trustworthy situation or not. But it's just so cool
yeah,
because it's usually in places that like you just don't know what to expect or you are expecting the opposite, that you're shown like so much
exactly.
kindness. So it's cool.
Exactly.
Totally.
And I think like because of the digital age that we're in, we're so much more addicted and dependent on technology and apps and planning. We're able to plan everything ahead and it leaves much less up to chance. So when things like that happen, it just kind of like, yeah, you can't immediately depend on certain things and it leaves the opportunity for these unexpected connections.
So
Totally.
cool. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
So so I'm super curious. So you've mentored a bunch of people with photography and
Hmm.
other things. If somebody wants to like really get into travel and start like seeing the world, what do you typically tell them? Like how would you tell them to do it?
I think, I mean, I think it depends on the person and how like risk averse they are. But I would
Mm.
say one of the ways that I love to see the world is just taking a look at my friends and connections and my network. And do I know anybody who's recently moved to a country that I've never been to or a city that I've never been to? And use that as a
Mm.
motivation to go to that place if that, I mean, if that's a place you've always want to go to. And because then you're going to get a more insider's view into a place. I mean, Airbnb experiences actually helps fill a bit of that void now, which we didn't have before it existed. It helps you kind of bring you into a very local, intimate experience. But I just think like visiting friends or friends of friends or acquaintances, just using that as an excuse to go somewhere because they're going to open up a lot of insider information for you. But
Yeah,
otherwise, I
honestly,
would
I think that's
just
such a rad
go on to
note.
one of these. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say, like, if you
No,
are
it
less
was a
risk
little delayed, I think.
adverse, yeah, if you are more of a risk taker, then I would just go on one of these budget airlines that we've been talking about and just book a trip, like super spontaneous, and use Airbnb, find cheap place to stay, and just get out. Do whatever you have to do to extract yourself from your environment, because I think that's the hardest part is just creating the space to do it. And then once you're there, it's great.
Totally. I
So
think that first
true.
note is both are great. They when I think about the hurdles of travel, one of the main hurdles is just the unknown. It's like, oh, I'm going to get there and not know how to get to my Airbnb, or not to know how to even call a taxi, or like there's so many variables that can be different in different countries. But when I think about like, oh, I'm so intimidated to go to Ghana. Oh, my friend Harrison is actually in Ghana right now. That makes it way less intimidating to just like hit him up and be like, hey, dude, I want to come visit. Can you pick me up from the airport? And then all of a sudden, like so many hurdles are gone, or like, do you have an extra room I can sleep in, or whatever. Like it's just
Exactly.
yeah. I think that tip's
And
on
yeah,
point.
and what I love to do as a photographer also is oftentimes if I'm going to a country that I've never been to and I need to fast track my way as visually into getting like really real and authentic situations, I hire a fixer. So if you know someone in that particular country and they've lived there for a little while, they probably know a handful of locals that could function as a fixture for you and take you around and show you their favorite spots. And just an experience like that, even if it's just one day of your vacation, is so mind blowing and amazing.
Cool. Yeah, that's so rad.
Yeah.
It's
And
so true. People just need to do it. Like, just stop
Yeah.
overthinking it. Book the ticket. Book an
Hmm.
Airbnb or a hotel or whatever it is, or find someone that is like a friend of a friend of a friend. Go stay with them
Hmm.
and have the best time of your life.
Totally. Because I
Exactly.
even think about the trips we're about to go on. The most likely places we're actually going to go is Italy, and it's because Katelyn's husband's family has a place there to stay. Or, it's
Hmm.
just such a. But
Hmm.
yeah, there's still like that big hurdle of like just pulling the trigger.
Exactly.
Totally.
Oh, there we go. The trivia. Do you have your paper from yesterday?
Yes, I do.
Oh my God.
Alrighty. So these first couple you still got, but let's go over them anyway. Question number 1: what is escargot?
Snails.
Snails.
I've had
Ding ding ding.
snails.
It you especially being a foodie, that's especially easy, but a pretty easy one in general. Oh, the clapping. Very good.
I didn't know how to make it stop. It was going for too
Question
long.
number 2. I can add those in post if you don't want to add those every time.
Okay. I'll wait. I'll wait then.
What is the highest what is the highest mountain in Africa?
I said Kilimanjaro.
Correct. Ding ding ding. Got it.
Same.
Alrighty, what is the most spoken language in the world?
I said Spanish.
I said Spanish too, but I have doubts.
It's actually Mandarin, Chinese,
Oh.
Wow.
which is wild. I thought, yeah.
That is wild.
I wonder,
Okay.
yeah, I wonder if they broadened it and they're like, I'm sure that Latin-based languages is by far the most spoken, but there's so
Right.
many variations.
Mm-hmm.
Question number 4: what is the most visited country in the world?
I
France.
put France.
How'd you guys get that? Correct. France.
Paris-
But what?
Literally
Just-
everyone wants to go to Paris.
Mhm. Like
And it's-
multi-generations.
Yes, like my
Multicultural.
friends. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of France.
It
or
is funny because
Paris,
there's
but I get it.
it's
Yeah, and
the
it's
people
also
that actually travel
geographically.
typically don't like it that much. Oh, sorry. I think there's a little delay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about its placement geographically. All of the other European countries around it, its proximity to the Middle East and Africa and North America. So it's cultural popularity. It's in the popular culture, like in every generation.
Totally.
I think Hollywood
Eiffel
really
Tower.
sold it. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Because the Eiffel Tower is also not that cool yet. That's like when you think of France, you think of going and seeing the Eiffel Tower, and it's like it's fine,
Right.
but
Yeah, it's
I
not
actually
really.
I love Paris in general, but not the Eiffel Tower as much.
Did you guys know that there's like a
Alrighty.
really serious bed bug problem in Paris right now?
Yes.
Ooh, sketch.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not going until they get that under control.
Serious, same. Can you imagine bringing that back to your house?
Oh my
Oh.
God.
And like being on airplanes and stuff, like
Oh,
Yeah.
so crazy.
yeah.
No, that
And
would
they're
be
so
that
hard
would
to get rid of.
Oh my God, they really are. That would be a travel fail that I think it would be really hard to find the positive in that one.
So
Totally.
true.
Yeah, afterward you'd still be pissed.
Oh, for months later.
Oh.
Yes.
Alrighty, question number 5. What is the most widely eaten food in the world?
Rice.
I said rice, but then I was thinking about it last night and I thought, well, is bread too broad? Because bread
It
could
could
be
be
more
bread.
widely eaten than rice.
But I feel like one time I heard that rice and beans is the most shared dish across like the world because it's the protein and carb combo.
Yeah,
But I don't know.
right.
We're about to find out.
All right, final answer. What's your final answer?
Mine is rice.
Same.
Ding, ding, ding. Got it. You guys are good. Honestly, yeah, there's a
We're
few
good
ones.
at
Rice.
this, Caitlin.
Yeah,
I
you
know,
guys killed
wow.
it.
We need
Like
to
the
join
France
some
one.
trivia parties.
It's funny. Every time we do one of these, I'm like, there's like some really hard ones, and I'm like, that they might not know that. So I go to like medium hard that I think it's like gonna stump a few, but man, you just nailed it.
Okay.
So fun.
Good job, guys.
We're ballers. We've traveled.
Yes. Yes, we have.
Traveled. I know. Caitlin should actually come up with the
We're
questions.
good at games.
Then she'll
No, I'm
actually
really
stump
bad
people.
at coming up with like questions. Like if someone asked me like tell me your top 5 anything. It could be like movies, songs, countries. I would literally forget anything I've ever known. My brain just like goes bloop.
Like
know,
Fast and the Furious 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are my favorite.
The Pirates of the Caribbean industry.
Yeah.
It's like so bad.
I know, it's just the social, like the pressure, the pressure of like
Yes.
the pop question.
So true. Do you want to share where people can find you on Instagram, maybe like your handle or your website or anything like that?
Yes. People can find me. Well, my website is angiesmithphotography.com, and my Instagram is Ange Smithers, ANG Smithers. And
Nice.
Taco Mensch, if they're planning on coming to Mexico City, tacomensch.com. Come take a taco tour with us.
Yeah.
So rad. And all these will be in the description as well, so you can just go one click away, which is great.
Amazing.
Yep. So true. Well,
Brad,
Angie, thank you so much for chatting.
Yeah, thank you guys. I can't wait till you come
So
to
fun.
Mexico City.
Honestly, I'm gonna talk to my wife and I'm gonna figure it out because it sounds so fun. And it's a double whammy.
Yes.
It is.
You get a nice tour and a couple videos out of it. It'll be great.
Exactly. Direct flight. And also we're in the dry season now, so you don't have to worry about downpours every afternoon. The weather's amazing. So it's a good excuse to escape the snowy Salt Lake.
Yes. We got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Boise's the same. No, Mexico City is just so special. And we walked through a few parks, but I forget the name, but there was just so much foliage everywhere. Like just so many incredible plants. Just
That's cool.
like overlapping everywhere you walked. It was so cool.
It's a jungle. It's wherever, especially in Condesa and parts of Roma, it's like you're walking through a jungle. It's awesome.
That's where we spent most of our time. It was so awesome.
Yeah.
So cool.
Well, we can't wait. We'll be waiting for you.
Yeah.
We'll get your
can't
tour
wait to try those
all
tacos.
Custom planned.
Yeah. So cool.
Thanks, you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you.
Angie.
This is great. Okay, we'll talk soon.
We'll chat soon. Okay.
Bye.